Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 players that I love drafting this year in fantasy football drafts. We're going to be going in depth into all 5 players that I feel like you guys should be targeting, just like I've been targeting these players in my 2024 fantasy football drafts. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure they do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into 5 players that I love drafting this year in 2024 fantasy football. We begin with the first player that I love drafting in 2024 fantasy football, and that is Jahmyr Gibbs, running back of the Detroit Lions, current underdog fantasy ADP running back 4 at pick 12.9. Now, entering into fantasy football drafts last season, I was about as high as someone could get on Jahmyr Gibbs. I loved his tape at the college level. I loved the fact that he was on the Detroit Lions offense, and I was ecstatic to see what he would do in his rookie season, and he obviously had a tremendous season. Now, he wasn't a top 5 running back, but he was the running back 10 in PPR and the running back 8 in PPR points per game, which is amazing based upon the amount of volume that he received game in and game out last season. The team definitely wanted to rely more on David Montgomery compared to Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, David Montgomery is not a prolific pass-catching running back, so Jahmyr Gibbs was seeing a majority of the pass-catching opportunities on the team. He had 71 targets, 4.7 per game, ranking 8th at running back, 52 receptions, 3.5 per game, number 9, and 316 receiving yards, 21.1 per game, 16th at running back, playing in 15 games with 3 starts. Where you see David Montgomery make the real impact is in the running game, right? When they went to hand the rock off, a lot of the time it was going to David Montgomery, especially in the red zone, right? Jahmyr Gibbs might be able to break free, to be soaring, be flying, like his name was Troy Bolton, and then once they got to the 2-yard line where Jahmyr Gibbs got him there, then they would jam the rock down the defense's throat with David Montgomery. And I do not believe this season that David Montgomery is going to fully disappear, that he is going to vanish like pixie dust, and we will never see him again, because I think assuming that would be a little bit crazy. But what I do believe is going to happen is that the team is going to give Jahmyr Gibbs a bigger cut of the offense's pie compared to what he had last season. I believe that his 12.1 carries per game is going to increase. He had 182 carries, 28th at running back, 945 rushing yards, 63 per game, 17th, with 11 total touchdowns. 9th in terms of efficiency, he ranked 7th in true yards per carry. Jahmyr Gibbs is an incredibly talented player. The only thing really holding him back last season was the usage of David Montgomery. This is going to be an offense that, just like last season, is going to be kicking the doors down. They are going to be blowing the metaphorical back out of defenses all season long, and Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a large part of that. So if Jahmyr Gibbs was able to be very successful in his rookie year, not getting the biggest piece of the pie that we all believe that he deserves, he is going to do significantly better this season, given more opportunity. Do I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have this insane workload Christian McCaffrey-like? Of course not, but I don't think that a player with the skill set, with the speed, with the burst of Jahmyr Gibbs needs to have that much of a workload. Obviously, if he could be given that Christian McCaffrey workload, that would be fucking awesome, right? No one's going to be mad at that except for maybe David Montgomery, but Jahmyr Gibbs, just given slightly more opportunities, I think has the upside to smash things out of the park. He has the opportunity to smash this season out of the park, like his name was Hank Aaron. So I love Jahmyr Gibbs this season. I love the significant amount of upside that he possesses in Detroit. And even with more limited opportunities compared to a guy like Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, or Christian McCaffrey, who are going above Jahmyr Gibbs, I believe that Jahmyr Gibbs has that running back 1 upside. And if something was to happen to David Montgomery, knock on wood, then the ceiling is the fucking moon for Jahmyr Gibbs. At number 2, we got Devin Achane. Devin 2 Chains, running back of the Miami Dolphins, underdog ADP, running back 7 at pick 24.5. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with liking both Devin Achane and Jahmyr Gibbs. That is because they're kind of polarizing players in fantasy football, because these are 2 guys that are in backfields that are relatively crowded, right? Devin Achane has Raheem Mostert, and Jahmyr Gibbs has David Montgomery. But the biggest tell for a running back to have that huge breakout season, for a player to really kind of shift the pendulum at the running back position, is their second season, right? We already have seen the building blocks of a great Jahmyr Gibbs season. We've seen the building blocks of a great Devin Achane season. We just need the teams to push the chips more towards the center with Devin Achane and Jahmyr Gibbs. Just like Jahmyr Gibbs, Devin Achane doesn't need some insane workload to be successful. You can dump the ball off to Devin Achane, he could hit the stanky leg, and 4 motherfuckers are on the ground and he is gone, right? This is a guy that is as fast as they get. Devin Achane will make defenses look silly. They could have the correct read on Devin Achane. They could be diving towards him, and he is so fucking fast that he might just run past him. He's faster than O.J. Simpson running away from the cops. Devin Achane is in an amazing scenario, just like Jahmyr Gibbs. We are talking about the top of offenses in the National Football League, and Mike McDaniel is a run game guru. Now, as a Dolphins fan, my biggest gripe with Mike McDaniel is that he never truly is able to commit to the run. Even if Devin 2 Chains is gashing the Buffalo Bills, right? If he's squeezing their eyes out Game of Thrones style, they still manage to get towards throwing the ball late, forcing the ball to Tyreek for no reason. I think that is going to be a large adjustment in the year 3 Mike McDaniel system in Miami, is relying on the run more. I fully understand, just like with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, that Raheem Mostert isn't going anywhere. Raheem Mostert is still going to get some serious snaps on the Dolphins, and rightfully so. But the difference between Mostert and Montgomery is Mostert isn't necessarily the poster boy for health, right? We know Raheem Mostert is one of those guys that you might dub as injury prone. Devin Achane in this offense, with or without Raheem Mostert, has significant upside, but if something was to happen to Raheem Mostert, knock on wood, it's another scenario where this guy could really be the running back number 1. I understand that Devin Achane isn't the safest running back on the board, right? He's going to have some more down games, but the game-breaking upside in any given week where Devin Achane could literally score 2 touchdowns, 180 plus all-purpose yards, is just so strong with Devin Achane that I just cannot resist smashing the draft button on Devin Achane, just like you shouldn't resist smashing the like button on today's video. Last season, running back 5 in PPR points per game, running back 24 in PPR. He missed a few games with a knee sprain in the middle of the season. 4 starts, 11 games played. He was averaging just 9.4 carries per game. It is easy to see that number going up. 800 rushing yards, 72.7 per game, 37 targets, 3.4 per game, 27 receptions, 2.5 per game, 197 receiving yards, 17.9 per game, and 11 total touchdowns. 9th. We are going to see a lot of games where the Dolphins are hitting defenses with the 619 Rey Mysterio. They're putting them in the figure 4, and they are just pounding the rock late in games, running the clock out, and that is going to be a huge benefit for a guy like Devin Achane, which is also a point we could have made for Jahmyr Gibbs. In terms of efficiency, Devin Achane is a wet dream for the efficiency enthusiasts. 2nd in true yards per carry, 1st in yards per touch, 3rd in juke rate, and 1st in breakaway run rate. I get there's going to be some games where this guy is a landmine for your team and it just doesn't pay off, right? He might have fewer than 10 points. But the fact that in any given game he could score 25, 30 fantasy points is enough for me to get up to the plate and swing for that home run to take the upside pick in Devin Achane. Again, I fully understand that he is far from the safest bet around the running back 7 spot, but the upside being so high, the fact that he's coming off the board in the 2nd or the 3rd round, I am in love with the upside that you can get out of Devin Achane. And again, this is an offense that is going to be having teams bent over a table late in games, just running the rock out. And even late in the game, Devin Achane could bust one off for a 50-yard run. At number 3, we got Kyle Pitts, tight end of the Atlanta Falcons. Underdog ADP, tight end 6 at pick 60.2. Now, we were just talking about how the Dolphins want to be bending defenses over. Kyle Pitts has metaphorically bent us fantasy football players over for the last couple of years, right? He has that great rookie season, kind of allergic to the end zone, and then ever since then, he just really hasn't lived up to expectations. Now, if you watch the film, if you watch the guy out there when you're watching a Falcons game, you'll think, damn, this guy's great. But that stooge Arthur Smith is not doing anything to design plays to get the ball into Kyle Pitts' hands, right? They are not doing anything that would push you or push Kyle Pitts really to having a huge game. When you draft Kyle Pitts as high as they did, and when you see on the field, this guy isn't just some fucking college hit at Florida, chomp, 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 right? He has these great years, and then he shows up at the NFL, and you're like, okay, that was a fluke, that was fugazi. He might be this legend in college football, but he is not worth shit in the NFL. If you watched Kyle Pitts play at the NFL level, you will see this guy is incredibly talented. The team was holding him back. They were taking him to the middle of the ocean, strapping a couple of weights to him and throwing him down there Tony fucking Soprano style, right? That is what they did to Kyle Pitts. They took him into the water and drowned him, right? Because he didn't stand a chance with the quarterback play in Atlanta, and he especially didn't stand a chance because the team was coached by a dunce. Now they have a new head coach, and now they have a quarterback that is competent. Now, I understand that Kirk Cousins is coming off of a serious injury, and at this point, he is a bit of an older man. I believe he is going to be fine, and I believe that even if he isn't 100% himself, as long as he is a competent enough quarterback to realize, hey, this freak athlete, Kyle Pitts, is on my team, let's throw him the ball, right? As long as he realizes that, and Kirk Cousins is smart enough to know that, Kyle Pitts is going to be just fine. And you don't even have to draft him as a top 5 tight end. You don't even have to pay a humongous price to get Kyle Pitts. After Kyle Pitts, to me, is when there becomes a lot more worry at the tight end position, right? When you get the Kelsey, the Laporta, the Trey McBride, the Mark Andrews, the Dalton Kincaid, sure, there are some question marks, there are some warts on those guys' profiles, but ultimately you feel relatively safe clicking on them. For Pitts, a lot of people will say, hey, fool me once, shame on me. Maybe they've drafted him twice, fool me twice, can't get fooled again. I can't draft him. People will just be like, I've been burned by him in the past, I can't draft him again. And I think that is the wrong way to look at things. I do like some tight ends after Kyle Pitts, like Jake Ferguson or Evan Ingram, but once you get past those guys, it really does become a spot where you're just hunting for the most upside possible, and there's a lot of risk involved with those tight ends. So to me, while Kyle Pitts has been risky his whole entire NFL career, while he has been allergic, he starts breaking out in hives when he gets in the red zone because they just never target him. I believe things will be significantly different this year with a new head coach and with Cole's Cash Kirk under center. Tight end 12 in PPR last year, 16 in PPR points per game. This guy was averaging 5.2 targets per game. He played in 17 games, only 89 targets. That is malpractice to get Kyle Pitts only 5.2 targets per game. And the quality of those targets were absolutely atrocious. It's like drinking a Dr. Pepper and then you go to someone's house and instead of Dr. Pepper, they got Dr. Thunder, right? You ever drank Dr. Thunder from Walmart? I've bought it before because I wanted to see what it tasted like. And guess what? It doesn't compare to the wonderful taste of Dr. Pepper, right? You go ahead and you like Mountain Dew. I don't really like Mountain Dew that much. But Mountain Dew, if you want to sponsor me, I love Baja Blast. But what I will tell you is they also have Mountain Thunder or something like that, or maybe it's Mountain Lightning or something at Walmart. That doesn't taste as good as Mountain Dew either. So they basically had the Walmart version of what this offense is going to be. They have just basically upgraded. The upgraded coach and the upgrade at quarterback is like turning Squirtle into Blastoise, right? That is what they are doing with Kyle Pitts. They are leveling him up. 3.1 receptions last year per game, 39.2 receiving yards, and only 3 total touchdowns, despite the fact that he was 4th in yards per reception, 14th yards per target, and 7th in contested catch rate at the tight end position. I would be shocked if Kyle Pitts ends up failing at ADP, and I think he has a good chance to finish as the tight end number 1. At number 4, we love Dak. Pause. No Diddy on loving Dak. Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. Underdog ADP quarterback 9 at pick 95.1. While the Dallas Cowboys did, in a way, kind of fail to bring in other weapons for Dak Prescott in the offseason, this guy last year with basically CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and Brandon Cooks, they're just running that shit back and adding fat boy Zeke to be the running back instead of Tony Pollard. Last year, Dak was the quarterback 3 on the season in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, and the quarterback 4 in points per game, tied with Cool Joe Flacco, if you remember how elite Cool Joe Flacco was last season. Dak Prescott was the quarterback 3 on the season, quarterback 4 in points per game, with essentially the same crew, besides Zeke, right? So you get rid of Tony Pollard. Zeke, you might be able to argue that Zeke is better, even though Zeke is washed, right? He's better than what Tony Pollard was. At least he could find a fucking hole to get into the end zone, right? Dak Prescott is going to be just fine. As the quarterback 9, he feels like an incredibly cozy pick because after Dak Prescott, you start to get into the range of the Tuas, the Goffs, the Purdys, and while those guys are fine at ADP, I know that Dak Prescott has had top 5 seasons before. Last year, he was a top 3 quarterback number 4 in points per game. I get that he doesn't have this myriad of weapons, right? He doesn't have an AK-47 with an RPG on his back. He doesn't have a Desert Eagle with a tactical knife and Marathon Pro, Modern Warfare 2 style. He doesn't have an ACR with the noob tube attached and one-man army, right? He doesn't have that. But what he has is a fucking tank in CeeDee Lamb, fine Swiss Army knife in like a nice bayonet in Jake Ferguson, and then like Brandon Cooks could be fine. So they have enough weapons for Dak to be fine. Now Dak isn't going to go out there and run for a gazillion yards. He's not going to pull a Mike Vick, right? 55 carries last year, 11th, 242 rushing yards, 14th at 2 touchdowns, 18th. Dak's a guy that's going to rush 50 to 65 times, get you 200 to 300 rushing yards, and has the upside to get, I would say, 2 to 5 touchdowns. You'd be lucky if he got more than that, right? Unless the Cowboys and fat boy Mike McCarthy magically start tush pushing a million times, which isn't going to happen. Dak's going to get 2 to 5 touchdowns rushing. And that's just the cherry on top, right? Just the slight added points that Dak always does, right? He always runs 50 plus times, basically, 45 plus times. Last year, 17 games played, he ranked 4th in pass attempts, 1st in completions. He had 4,500 passing yards, 4,516 passing yards, 3rd at quarterback, 36 touchdowns at a 6.1% rate, 1st at quarterback, 9 interceptions, 16th. Now, the passing touchdown rate is important. Throwing 6.1% passing touchdowns is very high. 5 is a very normal number, so I expect it to come back down to earth a little bit, but if Dak threw 5.5% passing touchdown rate in 2024, that wouldn't be that absurd either. Dak Prescott, while a lot of people like to shit on him because in the playoffs, the guy turns into just a limp dick version of himself, At the end of the day, during the regular season, he is a very competent NFL quarterback. We like to make fun of Mike McCarthy as well, but this is a team that is going to be solid every single regular season if this is the setup. Second in QBR, second in true passer rating, sixth in true completion percentage, eighth in accuracy rating, seventh in fantasy points per dropback, and seventh in yards per attempt. Again, you can make fun of Dak for choking on the fat one in the playoffs, this, that, and the other thing, but at the end of the day, as the quarterback 9 off the board, he is incredibly safe, and he has that top five upside at the quarterback position at number 5. Now we move to more of a dart throw, the late round pick, and that is going to be the DeMario brother, DeMario Douglas, wide receiver of the New England Patriots, Underdog Fantasy ADP, wide receiver 75 at pick 168.3. Underdog Fantasy is the sponsor of today's video. Underdog Fantasy is the shirt that I am wearing in today's video. If you guys are new to Underdog Fantasy, you can claim your special pick plus up to $250 if you're a first-time depositor using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. Underdog Fantasy has a variety of fantasy games. On here, we focus on the NFL. They have a tournament, $25 to enter, Best Ball Mania, with over $1 million to first place. There are smaller tournaments as well that they're going to be releasing all summer long. So if you want to get your practice in for your fantasy football at home leagues, make sure that you check out Underdog Fantasy. I love drafting on there, and we are going to be doing drafts all summer long on there live, so I could draft with you guys. So if you're new to Underdog Fantasy, make sure you sign up now so that you could get some reps in before you go mano-a-mano with me. All right, so claim your special pick plus up to $250 if you're a first-time depositor using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. So DeMario Douglas is in the range where in a lot of your redraft leagues, he's going to go undrafted. So you could maybe even pick him up off the waiver wire if you draft someone, say, a couple weeks from now. This shit always happens. Someone that you draft will end up just being hurt, or someone that you liked ends up getting hurt, and you're like, you know what? I'll stash them on my bench. So you draft them, you throw them on the IR, and then you could just pick up DeMario Douglas, or you can draft him with your last pick. DeMario, then the best part about that is if DeMario Douglas sucks for the first couple of games, it's no sweat off your back because you drafted him with one of your last picks. Whereas if Jahmyr Gibbs ends up being this terrible player, he just literally looks like trash, then that hurts, right? Because he was your first or second round pick. Achane, he's your second or third round pick. If he sucks, that would hurt. Pitts, Prescott wouldn't hurt as bad. Pitts, it definitely would hurt. But DeMario Douglas, if he's bad, it doesn't matter. It's the same argument I made for Jahan Dotson a couple of videos ago, how I like Jahan Dotson late, where, hey, if he's just not good at all, you can just cut him and it doesn't really matter. So wide receiver 64 last year in PPR, 66 in PPR points per game in his rookie year, 7 starts, 14 games played. Let me set the scene here. If anyone doesn't remember the Patriots last year because they weren't memorable at all, it was either Bailey Zappi the Zappaneta or Mac Jones. The quarterback situation was a steaming pile of dog shit. Bill Belichick was waiting to go home to go pound his 24-year-old girlfriend, and nothing was going right for the Patriots. This was an offense that needed Viagra, Cialis. They needed it all, and they didn't have anything. It was embarrassing. It was hard to watch. You were better off going outside and mowing the lawn instead of watching a Patriots game. It was that bad. He had 78 targets, 49 receptions, 561 receiving yards, and 0 total touchdowns. In terms of efficiency, he ranked 18th in target separation, so DeMario Douglas was getting open, but the ball just was not coming his way correctly. Nothing was coming correct for him. 76th in target quality rating. Just not good. The ball was shaking when it was coming to him like it had fucking Parkinson's, okay? DeMario Douglas was a solid rookie given the situation he was in. He had solid games given the fact that the Patriots were a laughingstock in the NFL. I understand that Drake May, he could be, sometimes he could be good, sometimes he could be shit. Like that meme, right? He could be good, he could be bad. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that in year number 1, I guarantee you Drake May is great. I'm not going to guarantee you that he's bad either. If they don't go with him, they also have Jacoby Brissett. So the quarterback situation is fine. Again, nothing to write home about, nothing that I'm going to sit here and be like, hip hip hooray, DeMario Douglas guy. Like if he had Caleb Williams, I'd be waxing poetically even further for DeMario Douglas, but the quarterback situation isn't the best. But what I will tell you is that the quarterback situation is better than last year, and the competition in New England is relatively easy for DeMario Douglas to rise to the top as the #1 target on this team. Now, they have rookies. They drafted Javon Baker. They drafted Jalen Polk. They still have Kendrick Bourne, right? The Bourne one, right? They've got KJ Osborne. They have other players, but none of those guys, when I read off those names, they're not jumping off the page. They're not screaming to you to draft them, right? DeMario Douglas, to me, seems like the best wide receiver on this team. So if the Patriots go from absolutely terrible to halfway competent, then DeMario Douglas's upside is tenfold, right? Now, he scored 0 total touchdowns last year. The touchdown number in fantasy football, we'll talk about this all summer, is very finicky. Certain players are allergic to the end zone, Kyle Pitts. Some players are born in the end zone, born in the darkness like they're Bane, right? There's just some guys that print touchdowns like Mike Evans. I don't forecast that DeMario Douglas is a guy that is just never going to be seeing the end zone. So DeMario Douglas, the upside shot late in drafts. The upside alone on DeMario Douglas, what I saw last year, warrants me taking him with my last picks. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you guys did end up enjoying today's video, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Make sure you check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.